Hey, HTDA, and today we're playing some more Mindustry, and we're specifically going for the tar fields next. Now, I am still going to be playing on eradication difficulty, mostly because I think the only reason I had to turn it down in the last level was because it felt like it was bugged. If I can actually finish games on the highest difficulty in the normal way, I am more than happy to take on the extra challenge. So let's see what the tar fields will bring us. And we're once again launching from the Windswept Isles because that is where all my stockpiles are. And there we go. We should be starting to produce the first units very quickly. Oh my god, we might actually get thorium in this level. Not entirely sure how to mine it yet, but I think we're going to find out in a second. Now, before we do that, let's find out where the enemy is going to spawn. Well, that was quite predictable, up in the corner over there. Which means that they are going to run themselves quite nicely into a bottleneck over here. Almost seems too easy, honestly. We always have the flying units to take into consideration though, but if I set up a very tiny defense line over here, I don't see them coming through there anytime soon, regardless of the difficulty. Now, the real question though is, how are we going to do that? Well, some drills and some combustion generators will get my power started, and to get my defense and real power started, I'm gonna run this belt of pyrite all the way up here to my facility that is then going to use some of the titanium that is over here to make cryogen, and the pyrite itself is going to go right into these facilities to generate a whole bunch of power. Now, the pyrite is also going to be used, of course, in my defensive line, so this is two reasons to get it up and running and all the way to the front line as quickly as possible. Okay, so the first wave is here, and I've set up a pretty decent defense already. I should definitely connect my ripple to the actual pipeline, but other than that, let's make sure that's working. This should be plenty to take care of those first couple of units. And adding in a whole bunch more of these ripples along with some anti-air units is going to make sure that nothing will happen to this base anytime soon. Now that means that these 4 units are very much dead, and I can start focusing on actually getting up some production. A couple of drills next to the main base will supply us with plenty of copper, and then I'm going to add in a couple of these centrifuges to start making coal out of oil, because we have plenty of oil on this map, and even though this might suggest that we have a lot of coal here as well, these are actually a couple of the most generous coal nodes. The rest of the map seems to be pretty well, sparse in coal. There is some coal, but there's plenty of oil all around, so we might as well get into the habit of using it. Adding in a couple of multipresses to that coal line should take care of my graphite for the moment. And then using the lead we have over here, leaving a little bit of nodes available for my mono so they can mine that effectively. I can set up a nice little pyrite mixer facility over here, so I have all the pyrite I'm going to need to both fuel my power, my defense, as well as my silicon production. Speaking of which, considering I actually have some room to build this time around, I put my crucibles right next to my pyrite production because it needs the pyrite to produce. But I also am not using the entire belt of coal over here, so the remaining coal can also be used in the crucibles, making a very neat looking layout like this. Now, I do need some additional sand, so this is where those laser drills comes in, but this should produce about a slightly less than a full belt of silicon. Then I just need to add in some titanium to make sure I don't run out of those basic materials, and we're pretty much good to go. Let's double up on our power production so that I am very sure I don't run out of that. In order to reinforce my front line, I've actually added in some of these smaller turrets because I had these awkward little niches here, and well, adding in some menders, some old school small menders is again going into the category why not. I might as well use this space if I have it. Now these 2 arc turrets are very likely to be destroyed actually, so I'm not entirely sure these should be here. Maybe add in, well, no, those are outside of the range. No, they're actually in the range of my mender, that's fine then. Yeah, so this is going to be a fairly okay defense. I'm actually going to take out this one over here and then maybe add in one of those. I don't know, something like that. I'm also going to add in some turrets next to my base just in case some flying units get through. And with all of that done, I think now it's time to consider mining some thorium. Ironically, just going through the motions and setting up what I now consider to be a pretty basic defense, as you can see, the game is already telling me this zone is going to survive 32 out of 34 waves. So we've already pretty much beat the level on eradication without even trying, which is a massive difference compared to the previous level where, well, obviously I was really struggling to actually get through the massive amount of units that the game was throwing at me. But anyway, thorium it is. And there we go, we have thorium production up and running. Honestly, it's not that much, even though I have utilized every single node in this particular patch, but it's close to a full belt, so I guess what we'll have to do. We do have a secondary patch here somewhere as well. It's, again, a pretty tiny patch. Maybe there's more hiding behind this these relics. But anyway, we have thorium coming in, and that means I now have a lot of mining to do, because honestly there is so much things in these in this technology tree that requires a lot of thorium to unlock before we can build it. So yeah, be right back a while, and in the meanwhile I am just going to build up pretty much every other material that I haven't built up yet, because I want this to be my new launching station. And by that I mean that I want to be able to produce everything in decent quantities in this particular zone, so I can just launch from here every single time. Alright, so the thorium has been steadily flowing in, and there's a couple of things I want to prioritize in terms of actually getting up and running. First of all, the cheap things are always easy to get first, so I already got the thorium walls unlocked. I don't know, not really needing them, but still, they were very cheap to get. Not cheap to get are the next two things I want. So there is an upgrade to the main building, like our main station, making sure that we can store and bring as many resources as humanly possible is definitely worth it. So this is where I also want to focus. Not necessarily the first thing I want to grab, but I definitely want to have this before the next level. However, I also really want to focus on getting the multiplicative reconstructor. That is a mouthful, but that is going to give me access to tier 3 units. Are we going to need them for this level? Well, no, not really, because I have not been sitting still while I was waiting for my thorium to stack up. As you can see, I have the thorium production over here, and I added a whole bunch of new production to the mix. Now, honestly, this is just repeating what I have already built. I've did some more of that oil refinery stuff, bringing in some coal over here, and is being turned into pyrite over here. You can never have too much of that. There's also some silicon, and pretty much a carbon copy of the same setup we had near the main base. And then I've also started to use all of that production along with some random lead production, overflow that we're not using for the pyrite, as well as some titanium to make all the base units. So I'm producing all the ground units, not the naval units, but just normal ground units from these sushi belts over here. Now this might look a bit messy, and honestly it is, but because I'm utilizing some of the initial silicon and graphite that comes in over here, that makes sure that these belts are not fully saturated, so I can put other stuff on them as well. So I have the mix of silicon and lead that I need for a lot of the other base productions, including some of the airships, and I even have some titanium on here, so I can eventually start making novas. And what are these called? I forgot about the name. But anyway, you know which units I'm talking about, the upgraded version of the green ones, basically. Now, is this a particular efficient way of creating these units? Not really, but I don't need them to be, because this is a defensive level, and my turrets are doing the brunt of the work. And as you can see, I have plenty of those around. I also scattered some... I also scattered some random anti-air turrets in between the top end of my base, because I know the enemy aircraft are coming from this direction. They have been trying to strafe past my defenses over here. They're not succeeding at that at all, especially not now I have some flying units of myself in between there. But still, it's never a bad thing to have some backup aerial defense. And at this point, I'm probably just going to add in a couple more ripples to here to make sure that this defensive line is never going to fall. And even if it does, in case of emergency, I have these units over here that are slowly starting to stock up. Remember, these are just some backup units that I'm not actively trying to produce, but I'm producing them anyway. And as you can see, I do have a steady flow of them now coming in, so that should be just fine. Now, the waves have been definitely increasing in strength, as I can show you in a second. I really like these kind of like shielded units. As you can see, there's plenty of flying units to go around, but they're also flying straight through my own aerial units. So they are not really achieving anything, and my polys are actively rebuilding and repairing my defenses in case I need to. And while I'm at it, I might as well upgrade my walls to fluorine, because remember, I actually unlocked those. Well, I was just cruising my way until the last couple of waves, but it turns out that if you throw about 50 air units at the defensive line at the same time, they can actually punch through. It's just a couple of them. I have plenty of air units to go and chase them, but yeah, they kind of destroyed my power facility over here, which is never a good thing. Well, that second to last wave actually made things a little bit more exciting than I wanted them to be, because my power completely turned off. Mostly because, well, I relied on my power production over here to actually do my power production. And kickstarting things is not trivial when everything is on fire and you don't really have any sort of backup production, which normally wouldn't have been a problem, but the enemy also blew up my batteries over here. So all my 400k or so power that was neatly stored up just in case of emergency was completely wiped out as well. That'll teach me to put all my batteries at the same spot, I guess. Well, anyway... yeah, everything is completely offline, at least my power-based production is. I do have plenty of pyrite on the belts still, and as you can see, it's coming in. So hopefully that is going to be enough to take down this last wave, including the boss, because if it's not, well, this is going to be a little bit painful. Anyway, here we go. It doesn't look too threatening, and remember, I do have all these other units in place that I might as well just move in and have fire at the enemy while they can. This is going to make my... Ooh, ouch. That base is... this Guardian is really tough and is actually tearing right through my defenses. This might be a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. That is not a good thing. I am now damaging it, but I'm not entirely sure I will be able to take this out. Okay, so I guess it's time to start throwing up some emergency defenses. I am bursting through the enemy Guardian, at least it looks like I might be able to kill it. But yeah, this is definitely not going exactly like I planned. However, putting some of these salvos in place. Where are you guys oh, are you actually repairing it? That's not good. Okay, well, I don't know how to say this, guys, but I actually managed to lose the level in the last few seconds, and the only reason that happened was because my entire battery facility got taken out. So, yeah, I guess that teaches me to leave, like, very vulnerable parts in my defensive lines. But honestly, kind of sucks, guys, because I really like my base, but I guess I'll just have to reboot the level and try again. Well, it was actually not that bad practice, because the rebooting the level left me with a lot of my layout already up and running, actually a lot of facilities as well, which is both an advantage because I know what I want to place where, but it's also a disadvantage because all of this stuff is drawing power and I needed to make sure I actually rebooted my defenses first before I started with anything else. But as you can see, I think I managed to do that, famous last words considering what just happened, but yeah, I think we have some decent power, 8k surplus up and running. I am definitely going to be placing batteries like all over the place now, just to make sure I never get into that situation again where, well, everything just shuts off. But I think I should be able to cruise right until the end this time around. Okay, and we are back in business. Actually, it didn't take all that long to rebuild everything. As you can see, I have all the resources flowing back in, and if this looks very familiar, well, it should, because this is the exact same layout that I used before, with the main difference is that there's a lot more anti-air defense now. Yeah, I'm not going to rely on any chances anymore. I am just gonna litter air defenses all over the place. And most of the time they're just sitting there doing nothing, so they don't cost you anything other than all the building materials. And as you can see, I have plenty of them all scattered around. I have salvos now. This is pretty much all my emergency backup production that I initially set up once the enemy boss started to get through. But this time around, they're actually already there. They're fully loaded. If anything comes through, it is going to have a very bad time. Now, most importantly, what I've done is I didn't just rebuild my battery packs. I've added in a random battery packs all across the place. I have a lot of them actually near my home base, just to make sure that if that falls, well, it's already too late anyway. I also have some backup power production over here in the top left, pretty much just out of the path of anything else. I added in a lot more parallax units as well, just to make sure that any stray units get grabbed back and be put back in line. As you can see, I am still taking some damage over here. Speaking of which, I should probably just add in a couple of repair turrets. I mean, again, there's no reason not to do that, so might as well. And this time around, hopefully, I will not be losing in the last wave. Honestly, having to rebuild everything is not that much of an inconvenience altogether, because I was just working my way up to all of these upgrades, and these upgrades are super expensive. Some of them are not. I mean, things like the conveyors are just 100 to unlock, but for some reason, all the other stuff is costing like several K at least. Not to mention, of course, the things that we really want costing 25K or more. It could have been a little bit less, honestly, because this is just me sitting around waiting for this to complete. But yeah, this is just how that works, so I'll have to work with it. Well, I was about to say I made it to the last wave once again without any trouble until I realized that for some reason I managed to get some thorium and some titanium on my pyrite belts, and that meant that not everything is actually getting the fuel it needs. There's even some slag here. I'm not entirely sure where that came from, but okay, I guess I can fix that. I mean, it's not a huge problem to fix stuff like that. It's just really annoying when it crops up and you're not expecting it, because I think it has something to do with some of these bridges I have over here in this, well, this lasagna of a base. It's probably something like that. I already put in a couple of armored conveyors because we have those now, and they make sure that nothing gets on a belt that doesn't belong there, but it might have already been a little bit too late before I fix that. Oh, well, the Guardian is here. Let's see if this time around it will actually die. I think it should. I mean, I hope it will. Yeah, this seems like it's been under a lot more control than what we had before, although honestly, it is still doing quite a bit of damage, so let's send in the reinforcements just because I can. And I think, yeah, it's melting away now, although it is doing a lot more damage than I expected. I am not going to lie, that went a lot more difficult than I thought it would, although remember we had all these backup defenses as well, just in case we need it. But yeah, there we go. Eradication definitely living up to its name if you look at all the destruction over here. In hindsight, something I mentioned at the beginning of this level, I could have constructed my defenses a little bit better if I would have set them up like over here rather than in this tiny bottleneck. If you put them over here, that allows you to fire a lot more at the enemy while still having them in a bottleneck. So this is not the perfect way to defend, but it was very convenient to start out with, and in the end it worked out just fine. And there we go. After cleaning up the belts, everything is now moving smoothly, and as you can see, it's a massive amount of production of all different kinds flowing into my foundation. Now the only thing I still need to do is upgrade the thing. And oh boy, did I upgrade it. Look at this chonker of a base. Not only did I upgrade the core itself to a nucleus that stores, I think it's 13,000 items, I also was able to now upgrade the storage units, the containers, to vaults, and these vaults contain a larger number of items as well. So as you can see, this entire thing now is able to store 21k of each resource, which I think is 9,000 more than before. The total that I had on the Windswept Isles was 12k per item, and now we're able to move all the way up to 21k. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to bring all of that, but it's definitely going to allow me to store up a lot more reserves. But I'm not quite done yet, because in addition to all the new units I'm going to be able to produce, this also allows me to unlock the Phase Weaver, and the Phase Weaver combines thorium and sand to produce the other item that we're currently lacking, which is the Phase Fabric. So let's get some Phase Fabric in production as well. You can see it's now coming in, and that means we can unlock even more on the technology tree. For example, I can now build the Surge Smelter, which is going to produce Surge Alloy. It needs a whole lot of different things, but luckily I have a very easy and cheap way to start producing this for now. Because by simply connecting the Surge Smelters to my main base by means of an unspecified loader, so there's no filter on this, is just selecting any resource, all the 4 different resources are actually being put into this facility, and it's spitting out, as you can see, the Surge Alloy. Now, thank you all in the comments that pointed this out to me, and of course this is not necessarily how you would normally want to do this, But, you know, for now, this works just fine. I can actually just repeat that a couple of times over just to get myself some basic production up and running. I'm not even sure if I need this belt if I do it like that. But yeah, I can just keep doing this wherever I have some space available. I just need to move some other buildings out of the way that no longer need to be there. And then I can do that exactly like I've just shown you. It's a super efficient and easy way to do this. Between the thorium, the phase fabric, and the surge alloy, I should be able to clear out most of the technology tree. Now, I'm not gonna go through everything in here, because most of that will only come into play in the next couple of levels. There's a couple of new turrets in here that I'm honestly not entirely sure that I am going to be using all that much, but I'll probably be proven wrong. There are just upgraded versions of what we already have. Of course, there's new types of walls for all the new types of resources that we just unlocked as well. It's just amusing that you can apparently build walls out of everything. And there's a couple of other things like new reactors, new pumps, and so on. The main thing I am really excited about, other than the new units that I still need to unlock, is the mass driver, because this is going to make my logistics around my base, I think, a lot more convenient than what it is currently. Would you just look at the range on this thing? This is going to be awesome. But anyway, that is for next time. If you're still here, I hope you enjoyed my failing and then subsequently victory of this particular level. There were a lot of upgrades in this particular run that we are going to be using over the next couple of levels. So I am really excited and I hope you are too. If you're still here, you're awesome and I do hope to catch you in the next one.